All right, now we always tell you guys, we want to help you win the water cooler. We want to get you as close to the game as possible. And our guest today, he's been as close as you can possibly get. Great friend of the show, great human being, number one, hell of a football coach. And we're honored to have him on. Coach Geoff Collins, former DC at a ton of big places, Mississippi State, Florida, former head coach at Temple, Georgia Tech, and a guy that knows ball inside and out. Coach, we appreciate you taking some time.
Glad you guys had me on.
Definitely, man. Well, I want to hop right into it. You know, we're ripping and roaring in fall camp. Report day is over. We're getting through the acclimation period before we go ahead and put the full gear on. And just from somebody that's been in it at the level that you have, just talk to our audience a little bit about what you were looking for as a head coach early in fall camp as you're getting ready. Obviously, you went through winter workouts. That turns into spring. That turns into summer workouts. And now we're in fall camp at the beginning. What were a couple things that you were really looking for?
Well, you know, in just a quick 2 years, things have changed a lot.
Yeah.
You know, you look over at a lot of places, they've got guys that are coming to camp straight out of the portal that didn't go through spring. Obviously, every year you've got a new freshman class. So you want to see how they did through the winter or the summer workouts, how they're picking up the offense, picking up the defense. But now you've got some guys that are expected to contribute right out of the portal. And just to see how quickly they've gotten up to speed. And then just where your team is as a whole, you know, from camaraderie, bonding, all of those kind of things, and, you know, the building blocks to take you into the rest of the camp.
And, Coach, you know, with the transfer portal, if you're a new coach taking over, especially at a place that has high expectations early, there's not a lot of grace period or the honeymoon period. You try and bring in some guys that can really help you get over the hump that first year so you can really get into your player development. When you're trying to break those guys in, is the hardest part the terminology? Is that because, again, they've played ball, they kind of understand a little bit of what they're looking at. But kind of part A of my question is the hardest part the terminology? And then on the back end of that, would you be willing to not dumb it down, but since you got to cram so much into a smaller time window, do you kind of take anything out of what you want to do just to make sure they get kind of the meat and potatoes of it?
Yeah, one of the biggest things, too, is just the element of what your program is about and how quickly they can pick up on the changes from the previous place they were at and to how you do things around there. And obviously the higher level of leadership and buy-in that you have on the entire roster helps accelerate that. But I think that's a big piece as well. You know, I don't think a lot of guys are going to really want to, you know, dumb it down to say they want to, you know, here's what we do. Here's how we do it. Here's the terminology. And if coaches got to spend some extra time, they got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, you're a DB, you go from one, you know, kind of concept base identity to rip, Liz, match, got to get the terminology down, understand how you call everything. And that's a part I find fascinating. I don't think we talk about it enough. And, you know, Coach, something we talk about on this show a lot, and I don't think, you know, they kind of get the general gist of it, but the difference from being a coordinator and a head coach and how those two jobs are they're just miles apart. How did you and how do you think the best way is to go about it? You being a defensive guy, being the head coach, not wanting to be known just to hang out with the defense. You got to be a head coach for the offense, the defense, and the special teams. How tough is that transition?
Well, one of the biggest pieces, so I went from being the DC at the University of Florida for 2 years to being the head coach at Temple. And the biggest realization, there's two things, is the number of people that need your attention.
Yeah.
You know, whenever I was in my office, first month, 2 months, 3 months as a head coach, the line of people, whether it be players, administrators, coaches, different people that are working in the building that were lined up outside my door wanting some answers and wanting some attention. I wasn't expecting that piece of it. And the other piece was, you know, as a coordinator, you've got say over the defense, but as far as a global program perspective, you offer, you know, solutions, but recommendations, and the head coach makes the final decision. Well, once you become the head coach, there's things that you say that you're just suggesting or possibilities. Well, that's not how they're heard. They're heard as this is what we're going to do. So there was Pat Kraft, who's now the athletic director at Penn State, probably month 3 or 4, came to my office one day and he was like, "Hey, Geoff, do you really want A, B, and C? You know, because I'm getting people come and tell me you want these things." And I'm like, "Pat, no, I was thinking these would be good ideas and was just trying to, you know, filter them through some other people." Well, they didn't hear it that way. They ran to the administration. "Geoff wants this, this, and this, and we got to get it done." And so that was one of the biggest things is from a coordinator to a head coach, the number of people needing your attention. And when you say things, they're going to take a life of their own.
All right, guys, before we dive even deeper into this, you tired of wasting your money on testosterone booster products that don't work? I know a guy. I don't want to talk about him, though. I don't blame you. That's why our sponsor, Nugenix Total T, lets you try before you buy. You talk about confidence, that's oozing confidence. And you can get a complimentary sample when you text 231231 and enter the keyword Crain, C-R-A-I-N. So put 231231 in that box up there. Then in the big box below it, you put Crain, C-R-A-I-N. Look, I'm getting older, all right? As you get older, you get less energy. That's a real thing.
True.
All right, it's like the sun. It's burning out, all right, slowly, okay? It is. It is. You don't have to be a scientist to figure that out. And if you want to turn back the clock and re-energize your life, you don't have to take my word for it. Try it before you buy it, as I said. And if it works, keep using it. If not, keep the sample because you've got nothing to lose. All right, Blaine, this is something you've been taking. You're a walking example of what Nugenix Total T can do for you.
Energy, right? He said the older you get, the less energy you have. And you can feel that getting up every day in the morning. This stuff right here I hop out of the bed like I'm possessed. You feel great throughout the day. I'm telling you, you're total T-ing right now.
Well, you said it helps
That's
your
what you
workouts, too.
Oh, 100%. Like from beginning to end, you can actually have the right amount of energy you're supposed to have. You're not waking up drowsy. You're not walking into the gym mad about you not having the energy. You're walking in, you're about to move some things.
And we have a lot of people listening to the show while they're working out. You ought to add this, and again, you can try it before you buy it, David.
There you go.
You're a father.
Yeah.
All right. Your energy's it's getting drained all the time.
Talk about
you
it.
started using it a couple months ago. I started using
Total
it a couple months
T.
ago.
Total T.
Total T.
I'm trying to get looking like Blaine and Dana White.
Crain over here.
Jacked and tan. You love to see it. Get a complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T when you text 231231 and enter the keyword Crain. Text now, and you'll get a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, their newest and most powerful fat incinerator ever. I'm down 40 pounds and feeling delicious right now with key ingredients to help you lose fat fast and get lean absolutely free. That's 231231. Enter that keyword Crain. 231231. Enter the keyword Crain. Texting enrolls you in recurring automated text messages. Content not required to purchase. Message and data rates apply. Number one doctor recommended brand by primary care physicians based on an independent survey conducted by IQVIA 2022. How hard is it at practice? You know, when you're typically in that room as the DC, you're running the defense at practice. You know, again, a lot of defensive coordinators will walk around. They may not be responsible for a specific position, but they stay on the defensive side of the ball. How many times did you have to stop yourself from walking over to the defensive side and saying, hey, I need to make sure I spend this amount of time on the offensive side as well?
So when I was a defense coordinator, obviously the nickname I got labeled with was the Minister of Mayhem. And a lot of when I was at practice, I was an absolute maniac. And you know, you've been to practices, you've seen defensive coordinators, defensive line coaches. Every single play is a sack when you're yelling and screaming.
That's five. That's five.
And the thing that surprised me as a head coach was the number of times I erred on the side of the offense. And a lot of that, you know, I didn't want to be seen because I was with the defense most of the time. I didn't want to be seen as that, so I was a little more lenient. And then you understand, too, when you take the defense coordinator hat off, well, if you call a sack every time, there's people that aren't going to get the full extent of the work and get to see, you know, things that are happening, getting beaten coverage or scramble drill, blah, blah, blah. And so you need to let a couple of those sacks go here and there.
Yeah, I find that balance. I always find it fascinating. That's why I laugh when the special teams coordinator becomes the head coach, and all of a sudden when the special teams period hits, he's just a different cat.
I never really thought about it until I was hearing your response, but I feel like I played mostly for head coaches that came from the defensive side of the ball, now that I think about it. And a great defense, that's a quarterback's best friend.
That's a compliment to them, though, if you're just now realizing
that's great. Look, they did their job. I played with some great defenses. Coach, I want to talk about the ACC, a conference you know well. Clemson has had a stronghold on this conference for coming up on a decade now. But this season, you know, we're hearing a lot about Florida State. Coach Mike Norvell has really gotten that program turned around. They got some big commitments, even this past weekend. A lot of people have them in a playoff, college football playoff conversation. You look down at Miami, a school that's traditionally very good at football. Coach Mario Cristobal entering year 2. You know, what do you expect from the ACC this year, and who could really stand out to you?
I mean, you've hit it. You know, the Clemson, Florida State, the University of Miami, I think they're going to have a really good year because they've really capitalized on the portal. And then I think Coach Brown up at UNC. You know, I think the absolute world of him. Obviously, he's got, you know, the credentials of a big-time ball coach, but just the way they finished the year. Obviously, he wants to, make sure they make up for it. And you can tell just going through spring and the preseason, just a level of focus. And they've got some good players that they've added through the portal as well. And so I think those four would be the ones to watch for the most part for the top.
Yeah, and it's not going to take long to find out. We got FSU, LSU right off the bat, and then Florida State's going to go on the road to Clemson for an in-conference matchup.
South Carolina, North Carolina.
South Carolina, North Carolina, week one. That's going to be a lot of fun. On the quarterback front, we're seeing schools like Alabama and Georgia, and that one football team in Columbus, Ohio. All three of them are starting new quarterbacks this year, and those three schools top 5 now in the coaches poll that just came out. What are you expecting from those three schools specifically as they start new signal callers? Is it just going to be business as usual and all three may be Heisman Trophy finalists, or will there be any struggles along the way?
One of the biggest pieces is just the supporting cast around them is at an elite level. Mm-hmm. All three have great defenses, returning big-time playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. I went over to Athens during spring ball and got all access to meetings, to practice, to all of the things in Kirby's program. And, we knew Carson Beck through recruiting as well. And just, his presence, his maturity, and just the command he has over the offense. And, I think, taking Coach Bobo and keeping the same system in place with just a new signal caller, I think that's huge for the continuity within that great program, who's won it back-to-back.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you look at college football, the land of college football right now, and the only thing you can see is really just the conference expansion and what's going on, the mass exodus coming out of the Pac-12. I want to get your thoughts. So how do you feel about it? And do you think college football is going to be in trouble?
I think everybody loves college football. We're in the footprint that is just college football 24/7. Mm-hmm. And, I think it's that way for a reason. The product on the field, the coaching, the players, the traditions are still there, but I do think the thing that is hurt somewhat is the regionality.
Yeah,
we in a time where the SEC was in this footprint, the ACC, the Big East, the Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever it is, or Pac-4. Those kind of things meant something, and I just think the regionality piece. I think there'll be some adjustment, but the piece that I feel for is the student athlete and the student athlete's parents. Because in the regionality part of it, you've got a young man who goes to college to play ball or whatever sport it is. Well, in most instances, their parents are going to go get to see them play every single game. Well, now with the stretching of the college football landscape or college athletics in general, there's some schools, especially on the West Coast, it's going to be, a hard weekend to figure out to make all the away games when you're going across the country here and there. And, so those are the part that I feel for. But I think, college football is still the best thing going in the world.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Well, I opened the show on Tuesday talking about how we literally have conferences that are named after the location that they're at. The Southeastern Conference, the Mountain West Conference. And, again, Blaine, you said it best. The only way people are going to stop loving college football is if an asteroid hits the planet, and hell, if whoever survives, they're still going to love it too. So it is an interesting time right now. But, Coach, kind of getting down in the minutia, too, of practice, another thing that again, trying to give people an inside look is that when fall camp hits, you got to know how to practice, right? You got guys that are all amped up, that want to go out there, and everybody's excited about day 1, right? But you want guys that are excited about day 8, day 9, day 12, and then obviously you're getting into game planning. Can you talk about just the emphasis you put on how to practice, how to take care of each other, but getting enough of that physicality and violence so that you're ready to strap it up on Saturday and go hurt somebody in a legal way?
Right. Yeah. And the game has changed again in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that came out of COVID that was a positive was the OTAs. So in the past, once spring ball was over, the coaches had zero interaction with the players other than maybe check on academics or, how things are going at home. You couldn't be around ball or talk ball or work ball. But now, you can go the whole summer where you're having OTAs and, doing individual, throwing routes, all those kind of things, which has changed. But then you get into the preseason, there'll be an acclimatization period where it's no pads, it's just helmets. and you're running plays, protecting yourself, getting used to the heat, all those kind of things. But then when the pads come on, most coaches in college ball and especially the NFL are adamant about protecting each other.
Yeah.
We're going to be physical. We're going to be tough. We're going to get after it. But there are certain mechanisms in place that make sure that guys, stay on their feet, don't take somebody else out. When you get the pads on, you go thud. One of the biggest pieces everywhere that I've been is if you're coming to thud up a running back or receiver with the ball, you've got to be 10-2 when you make that contact. Because that way the offensive player can protect himself.
Sure.
But there's some guys that'll come in trying to impress the coaches or make a name for themselves, and will just come take side shots at kids. Well, it's not necessarily that young man that's going to be in trouble and getting hurt. It's the other guy that he's getting launched into.
Yep.
So I think most places that I've been around are going to be just relentless about taking care of each other while still being physical and tough and all those things.
Now, before we get back to Coach Collins, who's a very fit man, you can tell.
Looks great.
We try to be fit, does look great. We all have the best intentions when it comes to sticking to a fitness routine, okay? We all made New Year's resolutions. We know you're not doing it anymore, but you can get back on the train, all right? No, you've fallen off. Get back on the train because Fitbod is changing the game. Fitbod's an app that creates personalized workout programs for you tailored to your goals, fitness level, and available equipment, and it learns from your previous workouts and adapts as you improve. Keeps the body guessing, David. You got to move all the muscles. You can't. Every day is not arms day.
No, that is correct. And I think we need to get the Crain Company Fitbod Challenge going.
That's you want to do it?
Yeah. We've been setting a good example here.
I know, man. I mean, you too. You've gotten a lot more fit.
Thank you.
Bod.
I appreciate that a lot. Well, the thing about it is it's really hard to, first of all, know your workouts, all right? But the thing about the Fitbod knows you, it knows your body.
Yeah.
Right? And it knows what you need at the right time. And trust me, every day is not arm day, but every day is chest day, okay? So you get in there, Fitbod, hey, love to be fit and love your bod.
Yeah,
Work your legs out.
Yeah, they've got over 1,400 demonstration videos too in HD. So again, you're never going to get bored with it. That's the thing I think a lot of people get bored with their workouts. That's the coolest part about Fitbod is it's always changing, always evolving. So keep up your fitness habit with a personalized workout program from Fitbod and get 25% off your subscription or try the app for free at fitbod.me/booster. That's fitbod.me/booster. It's a great deal and you actually have fun working out again. It's funny too, Coach. Some people think you got to have these long 3-hour, 4-hour practices to get the most out of it, when in reality, if you know how to practice, some of the best practices I was ever associated with were an hour and a half because we were getting through it, we were efficient, and I think that's kind of a common misconception. You don't have to be out there for 6 hours.
And one of the things, especially once you get to preseason camp, your roster is larger. And there'll be guys like I go to see Kirby, and I went over to see Coach Saban in Alabama, is most everything is 2-spot or 3-spot. So it's not just 22 players playing and then 80 players standing on the sideline.
Yep.
There are 3 groups, when you're doing specialized drills, even competitive drills, where there's 3-4 different drills going on. And then at other times, there's 2 7-on-7s going on in different fields. There's 2, 11-on-11, whether it be team run or team pass, that are going on to maximize the reps. The biggest thing is just the filming of it. And, everybody in the big time college ball has got enough filmers.
Yeah. Well, maximizing the space isn't just for an HGTV show. Coach, last thing I have for you is on the recruiting front. And obviously, NIL's been a huge deal. It's changed the game. But I always tell people it's still a human-to-human interaction. And being able to recruit, and we were fortunate enough to come out and watch you guys practice at Georgia Tech, and you can tell the relationship the coach has, especially the head coach, that they have with the players and the love y'all had for each other. And that's what makes it real. But and look, money talks. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it doesn't, right? We live in the real world here. But you are asking to take someone's most prized possession for 4 years, regardless of NIL or whatever, the thing that means the most to them, the person that means the most to them. Can you just talk about being able to go in that living room and really make a connection, whether that be with the parents, the grandma, the grandpa, the auntie, the uncle, the brother? Can you just talk about that for a second?
So every year there's a recruiting, player personnel, general manager symposium that happens in Nashville. And this year I get to be the headline speaker for it because they want to know from a head coach's perspective, what is the best way to help everybody in that room that is in that profession. But I think the first piece has always got to be the evaluation piece.
Yep.
Evaluation, athletic ability, fit within the scheme. And then the second is the character piece. Do they fit in your program? Do they fit in your locker room? Do your goals align? Do your mindset about the game align? And then once you know all of those things, the building of the relationship and really get to know the young man and his family and everybody that's going to come in contact with that young man. You better have a good pulse on who they are, what they want out of the experience, and if that aligns with your program. Because if it doesn't, in this day and age of the transfer portal, it's going to be short-lived, and you better be honest. You better have really good relationships with everybody involved. And then the easiest thing is what you're selling better be a true representation of what you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
If not, they get in that locker room, they're going to learn pretty quickly. And one of the things that's huge in this game is trust.
Mm-hmm.
And for the development of a player, that player's got to be able to trust his position coach, the coordinator on either side of the ball, the head coach. So the trust factor is paramount for their development and their success. And, ultimately in this day and age, them, staying around for you to win a bunch of games too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I say if I'm going to ask you to run full speed into another grown man, you better trust me and I better trust you. You better know I have your back and care about you as a person more than a player.
It's great to know that you can trust a coach because, that's who you look up to. Those are mentors a lot of time. I have one more quickly, Coach. From a defensive perspective, which play callers around college football gave you the most fits to scheme against?
And I was on a show and I got asked that same question. And the answer was Hugh Freeze. I think he's always done a great job wherever he's been. I was at FIU. He was at Arkansas State, and we had battles there. And then the Egg Bowl rivalries that we got into. Just the way he designs the offense, the way he uses the great players that he has. And it was always different. It wasn't always the same type of quarterback or the same type of running back, and was able to find ways to make the offense click and put up big numbers. And, one of my, crowning achievements as a defensive play caller was one night in the Swamp. There was two top-ranked teams, and we won 38-10. And special to me because it was against Coach Hugh and the level of respect that I have for him as an offensive play caller.
That's phenomenal.
Well, Coach, you know the level of respect we have for you, and I know you're getting to spend some quality family time. People don't know that coaching world, it takes you away from the family a lot. And it's an honor to talk to you, my friend. And you're always welcome on here. And you come up to Nashville, man. We'd love to have you in studio. And it's just great to see your face again, man.